Welcome back to Casual Bars Rugby, people. We've got Rose. We've got John Okafor. John Okafor made an appearance on Sapphire's Unscripted. We brought him over to Casual Bars. The man is elite. Rose, as you guys know, it's my girlfriend as well. Boys and girl, what are we saying?
We're good. We're good.
All good. Very good.
Okay, so I made a video yesterday, right, talking about there was a lot of hype around this weekend when it comes to the Six Nations, especially because you had the hype around the Scotland-France game, people seeing a potential upset, of course, the rivalry between England and Wales. Now, personally, for me, I feel it didn't really live up to the hype. Obviously, I don't have that emotional attachment to it all like the two of you guys. Do you think that's a fair statement in terms of hype, but we're not getting the game that we necessarily want out of it?
I'll start.
Go on.
Kind of and kind of not. I think there's elements of both. Obviously, it wasn't the best game in the world, but I think just the fact that it's England, and we saw a thing from England that we don't see often from England. We saw them come back after being behind, and that was exciting because we saw them actually show some heart towards the end of the game, which so often with England you see them behind and you see them just fall apart. But they showed some heart towards the end of the game, so I guess that was exciting in the second half. But the first half, as an England fan, I didn't enjoy it all, and I don't think either teams had the best game overall. So. Yeah. It wasn't fantastic in my opinion, but John, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the first half, me and my friends were joking. So I was actually, when I finished playing my game on Saturday, I basically started watching the England game, and we were just calling it the mid-off. It's just two teams, just unspectacular. You're not really expecting much from either of them. And England's first half was pretty poor. Like we were down to 2 yellow cards, and for Wales to let Bennell score off a base of a scrum, being 2 players up is kind of scandalous in itself. Like got 2 players up, you should have the line speed, and like a couple of missed tackles, and he scores. Like he has no business scoring that. Not to take away from Bennell's ability. Second half, a bit more of a composed performance, and again, like I said to you when on Sapphire's Unscripted, I just find England's attack so stale at times. I'm just like, we have all the tools there. And someone made an analogy that I hate to use football, but someone said that Steve Borthwick reminds him of Gareth Southgate as a manager. He's safe. He just plays high percentage stuff. He ain't gonna go out the box, and he just use the high percentages to his advantage, which is fair enough. That said, Bennell, fantastic. He's still riding high from his World Cup performances. And Freddie Stewart gave us an aerial masterclass yet again under the high ball. So there are some good stand-up performances in that England team. And finally, the blitz defense. Obviously, Felix Jones, that we mentioned this when I was on Sapphire's Unscripted. You can see Felix Jones is still trying to implement the system. And when Wales get around it, sometimes I think that we don't have the same caliber of athletes South Africa were able to have. So like I like Elliot Daly, but is he quick enough to be an effective blitz defender? Has he got the still got the agility to turn on the spot and make a good scramble defensive tackle? That's a question I've got to ask when we've got the likes of Emmanuel Wobso and Freeman on the other wing.
Yeah, we'll get into the England game a bit more, but let's address the elephant in the room, right? We got Scotland, France, 2016, right? And I predicted France to win the game. I'll happily accept being the rugby guru, but I've never wanted to be so wrong coming to the end of a game like that. Let's address the elephant in the room. We'll start off with Rose. Just a pure yes or no. Try or no try?
Try.
John?
Try. Yeah. I look like a
Anyone with the slightest bit of common sense knows that is a try. That is absolutely embarrassing. You can't really blame it on the ref, right? Because South Africans, we have our story with Nick Berry. he didn't really do himself any favors having whistleblowers coming out and then having a shock of a performance this weekend. But I mean, whatever. But that is on the TMO. That one alone is on the TMO to get that decision right. That's over the line. If you know, because I spoke to Brett today on Saffers Unscripted, right? And he said, literally, Nick Berry made the decision and the TMO said they could see the balls on the ground, but didn't know if it's over the line. Then at another angle, you can clearly see the balls over the line, but they didn't know if it's grounded. Just match the two up and say, listen, that ball is grounded. That's a try all day long. Scotland should feel robbed. John, do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's a hard one. Like the referees and TMO are under so much pressure. I think, especially when you're talking about deciding the game, it's last play. Like it's last play. Whatever they decide will decide the game. And I think once I'm trying to go understand their thought process, because once they start going down a school of thought of, I can see it's grounded, I don't know if it's over the line, they've already got doubt in their mind. So like for them, when they got doubt in their mind, they need something so conclusive to overrule that doubt, if that makes sense. Because they've already started with, I don't know. And if on-field decision is, no try, or we're referring it up, already the train of thought is, I don't know, I'm not confident enough. We're saying from the armchair, in our own comfy home, saying, yeah, that looks like a try. But high pressure scenario, adrenaline's pumping, the importance of this decision, because you give it, that's the game over, and that Scotland won the game. So
John, would that be your reaction if that was England trying to win that?
Like I'm always like I always give referees grace, because rugby's a game of interpretation and angles. Like one angle you're seeing a penalty, another angle you're not seeing a penalty, and vice versa. So I always go down the train of thought of, I always give them grace. And there's a lot of outrage, and I was just looking at it, I was like, damn, like. Yeah. I need to know the train of thought that got there. You can see them talking about it. And like I said at the start, they've already started with doubt. And once you start with doubt, it's really, really hard to solve. Unless there's something so clear as day to overturn doubt. That's how I see it. I don't know what Rose is saying.
Going off that, I completely agree. I think because on field was no try, the TMO had a really tough decision to make. I think it's almost more of an issue with the laws, because anybody with common sense could see that ball was grounded. But technically, down to the letter of the law, I mean, I still do have a bit of an issue with it, but the TMO technically couldn't award that try because on field was no try. And it's kind of an issue with the laws not facilitating common sense in a way. Because it clearly was a try, but it's really hard to blame the officials when they're just sticking to what the rules are. So it's such a tricky one. But I know, like Kajubai said, if that was England, I would have gone absolutely mental.
Listen, Rose just mentioned it, the letter of the law, and it's been a shambles in that game twice. The letter of the law has failed us, once with that common sense, and then the letter of the law with this ping pong that they were playing in the middle of the game, that 15-minute patch of just booting the ball. I made a TikTok video where I just ranted about that. I was like, this is utterly ridiculous.
That law's gone.
That law has to change today.
Yeah,
there isn't Six Nations this weekend, but there's URC. Change that rule right now. That is shocking.
Yeah, that rule is so gone. Like when you see it, it's like, because the old law, and I don't really understand it, because when I grew up playing, and even now instinctively, we were always told you retreat onside until someone brings you back. You retreat until someone brings you onside, or you just retreat 10 meters, or someone brings you onside. So this whole thing where you can like stand where you are, the player can move 5 meters, then you can run. It's just like, it's just gonna get amused, because like kickers just stand where they are and players can't move anywhere. Like it's like, so I think I wouldn't be surprised by the end of March that they revised that and said we'll just go back to the old law. And the old law made more sense than this law, because that just works. I don't know about you, Rose.
It was funny because Ramos, the Scots were doing it for a while, and then Ramos almost stopped out of spite after the It was so bad. It was so poor. Everyone at home, I can just imagine screaming at their televisions. I know when I was watching it, going through my head, I was like, oh my God, this is such a bad advertisement for rugby. Can you imagine new viewers watching the Six Nations and watching the second half of that game and going, is this what rugby is? You're not going to turn on the TV to another rugby game again. It does need to change because it was pretty horrific from both sides. That's all I have to say. I think it's bad for rugby because especially with the documentary on Netflix at the moment, I feel like that's such a good opportunity to get more viewers into the game. And it's so exciting, but we need to cut out these things that might potentially stop people from watching because it honestly just does make it a bit boring.
And the pinnacle of it was just like for me when they really took the piss with it, with Russell just standing still, like as if he had all the time in the world. Like usually they take the ball, they just boot it back down immediately, right? But he was standing still, just evaluating the field before he kicked it. It was just like felt like extreme time wasting.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get into the game itself, because let's not beat around the bush. France were not the better team. They did not deserve to win that game, right? I don't think it's an unfair statement, but as we previously said, John, like the good teams, the world-class teams find a way to get it done, even on a bad day, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what separates the brilliant teams from teams that strive to get into that position. Do you think it is one of those occasions where France just found a way to get it over the line? My apologies. France just found a way to get it over the line. Or do you think Scotland kind of threw it away at the end?
Both, really. I think you make an argument for both. I would like to reference Safa's Unscripted last week. I still think that France team is... I've just never seen a team lose one or two players and look so lost without them. It baffles belief. I don't understand why France are struggling that much. Yes, Dupont is a talisman. Yes, Ntamack is a talisman, but they have enough tools in their armory where realistically their biggest challenge should be Ireland, especially of the run they've had the last 2 years. Just for them to look so lost.
It's so strange. It's almost like a mental thing. It's like the other players are like, we don't have Ntamack and Dupont can't play. Yeah. It's strange. It's weird.
It is so strange. I don't know how to describe it. It's like they've lost all their powers because this is the same. The core of the squad, bar these 2 or 3 players. I believe Olivon's out. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Olivon? Aldridge. I beg your pardon. Aldridge. And in my mind, there's still enough tools in that squad. You still have Peno, you still have Fiku, you still have Ramo. These are very, very high operating players. And it's like all the team's confidence has just been depleted and vanished. That said, I think good teams do win ugly. And France, call it a bit of luck with the TMO. They're winning games. That's all that's how you judge. That's how you judge them. The win and loss column. And France are, right. They're lackluster against Ireland, which we'll probably get onto with their dominant performance. But France win column. They're on to the next game, and they're just finding a way just to get it done yesterday.
John, do you think we have a chance against them? Do you think England have a chance against France?
I don't want to get my hopes up because of last year. Because last year was scary. 50 points. That 50 plus points in Twickenham, and I was seeing tweets and people were saying we want 60. I was just like, oh my!
That's a challenge.
That's when the whole wheels fell off the bus that day. I was just like, this
50 at home. That is embarrassing.
It was like 52-13 or something.
Yeah,
like
52 in the end. And, so. Do we have a chance to do? I think this France side is there for the picking. I don't know if we have an attack to expose the France side. And I do worry the pace. I feel like they've got more pace in their backline than we do. So we're still figuring out our blitz defense. So I feel like our defense is there to be exposed. So I don't know about Euros.
I kind of agree. It's funny you bring up the backline because I think that's a real talking point at the moment with England. I was going to ask you a question. I was going to say, who would you start as your back three? Who would you start in the wings and at fullback? Because I was having real doubts about Stewart before this competition, but you mentioned it. Yeah, he massively proved, I think, everyone wrong yesterday. He was brilliant yesterday. But then you still have the issue on the wings. You have, should they still be playing Daly? He had a pretty good game yesterday, but in my opinion, he's a little bit past it, but I think Freeman could be exciting. So, and then obviously you have Warboso, who's insane on the bench, or he has been insane in the Prem. So I was wondering who you would start as your back three, because that's like something in my head that I can't really figure out at the moment.
Yeah, and when it comes to that question about the back three, I had doubts on Stewart's heads. I'll be honest. You know, I obviously do respect the aerial game, and in Test match rugby, it's key. I've always said Stewart needs to add more tools to his box, because I think if you're really trying to be like, you know, an elite player, they're good at 2, maybe 3 things. But yesterday, say again.
You can't just, like you said earlier, you can't just be good under the high ball.
The high ball, yeah, exactly. Like Daly's has stepped up into first receiver, and you know it helps distribute the load across the team and get your attack going and have your ball playmakers in different areas of the pitch. So I've always wanted that out of Stewart. However, yesterday's game was an aerial masterclass, and you know I hate, like, not that I hate to say it because I'm an England fan, but I'll give a man these flowers, and I think he's the best man in the world right now under the high ball. Like, you kick a ball up in it, he'll go and get it. Then we have moving on to Daly. I don't know if he's got that step to be effective in our blitz defense. Not to say he's a bad defender, but Felix Jones was enjoying athletes like Jesse Krill, Mpimpi, obviously Aronze, Colby. These are, my mind just went completely blank. I was just like, oh, it's been a long weekend. But after like pace for pace, those are quicker players than our backs, respectfully. So I don't know if we've got the same caliber of athletes, and I don't know if Daly compares to them when we have someone like Warboso, where I feel like he's got a bit more pace and top end speed, where he would be a bit more effective in that defensive system.
Yeah. Well, John, like I think your defense will match up very good with the French attack, because there's no fluency in the back line at the moment. I think you could really get at them if your defense is good. Look at the way that Scotland defended against France. They looked like they had no answers when it came to attacking play. Losing Dupont and Intermark has really taken any fluency that back line has. We know how good Jalibert is, but it just feels like so stale at the moment. And I really think you don't need the fastest back three or rush defense to knock that down. I don't think Scotland's rush defense was out of this world, yet it felt like they couldn't go anywhere. You just can't sit back and wait for them, because they've got big pieces of meat running down on you, Dante and Fiku, right? But if you catch them on the gain line normally and stuff, you'll be sorted. I think that will be the teams, the way that they play at the moment, the teams will match up very well. And we'll use this to go into the England game as well, because like we can't just say the same stuff that we said last week about France. Like the errors that they make, it feels like it's not even errors that you need Dupont and Intermark for. It's just like handling errors. Did Benno just forget how to catch the ball? Like, it's silly errors. Anyway, moving on to England-Wales game, right? Now, I've thought it was a dull game. No emotional investment, right? Did you guys feel it was a dull game, or was it because you had that emotional investment in it that you felt that was a nail-biter at the end, didn't know which way it was going to go, or was the result never really in doubt? Do you think you guys are going to pull it through? Rose, you can go.
I was terrified. As an England fan,
too,
you get behind in a situation like that. And I feel like people who aren't England fans don't know the pain of being at home and getting behind to a team that aren't that good, but they just like fall apart. And it's so common. So when we were behind, and when we were behind at half time, I was thinking, we're not going to get it. And
Yeah.
to Wales as an England fan, that's horrific. And
Yeah.
as a lot of people know, it's one of our biggest rivals. So I definitely was like doubting it hugely, but thank God we did. Sorry, John, what were you saying?
No, you're speaking. So my bad there. Sorry. Rose, I echo your whole sentiment. I think Wales is probably one of our top 3 rugby rivalries. Like, it goes without saying. Plus the added flavor about the Waboso and all of that, and what Gatland said. So he added a little bit more salt and pepper to the fixtures than usually. But as Rose was talking, I can't really remember a time in the last 2.5, 3 years where I've looked at our England side and think we've got all the pieces now. Like, I feel like since 2019, we have regressed since that World Cup final, just generally all the way now. It's been 5 years now. We're talking about 2019, 5 years on. And I'm still thinking that has been our pinnacle. I'm thinking, how have we not got a new identity or developed on that identity? How have we got more players through? Like, we had Marcus Smith, granted, he's got a calf strain. Rumors are saying he might miss the Six Nations. This was meant to be his Six Nations. This was meant to be he's coming out party in the England jersey. Yeah. Injuries, and this was for the world to see. This is what he can do at Test level. Injuries, and I'm just like, we're a bit unlucky. Plus, we just can't get it right. And when we're playing in Wales, I was like, oh man, like, this attacking shape from both sides. It's just horrible.
It was
horrible.
You watch some teams, and like, even when they don't play well, you still see moments of brilliant attacking play. And like you said, I can't remember the last time we saw that from England. I genuinely don't. We play with ball in hand, and we don't move forward, and it's not fluent, and it's a bit of a mess. And handling errors are they're a recurring problem for England. It doesn't seem to fix itself. Every game I'm like, oh my goodness, how many times are you going to drop the ball? Yes. So I completely agree.
Sounds like the 2016 Springboks. We were all literally just going in a frenzy, losing to Italy. I mean, seriously, at least you haven't done that, right? So moving on to, I know this is only in a few weeks' time now, but the next game is for the Calcutta Cup, right, against Scotland. Do you guys feel confident going into that game? Scotland playing at home, so the game's at Murrayfield. I think they've retained it 4 times in a row now, 3-4 times.
Yeah, we haven't beaten Scotland since 2017. Wow. The stat is horrible. It is a horrible stat. Like, Finn Russell hasn't lost to England since 2017. I'm just like, what?
But the point that I was getting to is, it feels like Scotland in both games have only played rugby for one half.
Yeah.
Do you think that is a point where England can really try and exploit that? Because, like, as good as Scotland look in the one half, as bad as they've looked in the other half in both games, in my opinion. So I think England will fancy their chances going into this game. I know it's a rivalry, and it's the same with this Wales game, right? Form goes out of the window when there's a rivalry. The crowd is up for it, everything. So do you fancy your chances to take it back home this time after, 6 years?
Yeah. The Calcutta Cup's a very interesting game. I'll let Rose, you go first. What you say? I'm going to digress nicely to Rose on delegate.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up how Scotland have kind of been playing one half rugby. I almost feel like England have as well. I feel like not to the same extreme extent, but in the England game yesterday against Wales, I thought our first half was pretty abysmal. And the week before, I thought our second half against Italy wasn't great. So we also have stuff to work on in that area, but I'm an England fan. Of course, I will fancy my chances against Scotland. I have hope that we can bring it back this year, even though it's in Murrayfield. I don't think the Scotland team is as put together and as successful as everybody predicted them to be. Everyone thought they were going to be huge upsets. These past two games, I haven't seen anything brilliant from them. I am a big Finn Russell fan, but I don't think he's lived up to his hype. He's been good, he's been decent, but I don't think he's lived up to the huge hype that he's been given. I don't know. I think we have a chance. I think it's going to be a really interesting game, like you said. But if I had to make a bet, I'd say England, because I think in that Wales game we saw a bit of heart from them. We saw a bit of fire, and we saw that they wanted it, which is something I think we are seeing from England a bit more than we have been, which is giving me hope. And I'm hoping because it's such a fierce rivalry, they'll step up, and that this team, if I don't know whether Borthwick will choose to play the same team again, but if he does, hopefully it will start gelling a bit more, working a bit more. But I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be an interesting game. But I think England could definitely win 100%.
John, just before you give your view, I'm just saying it out there. If you don't get that rush defense right on that back line of Scotland, you are dead in the water.
This game reeks of 38-38, man. This game reeks.
You match up better with France at the moment than with Scotland, in my opinion, when it comes to defensively.
I feel like this game, England, Scotland, this reeks of a big scoring game where it's just going to be defense is optional, and it's going to literally be one team's going to come out absolutely smoking hot first half and die in the second half, and the other team is going to be completely the other side. And this is a game where I think this is going to be 38-38 all over again. Like two teams that, again, I do agree with Rose that they are playing on two sides. Like they're literally playing two games of rugby within one game of rugby in terms of their one half is really good, the other half's really poor. Like look how England played against Italy in the first half. I was like, "Ooh, this could be the one where Italy gets. We could be the scalp Italy gets this year." Second half, we were good. Same thing with Wales. First half, I was like, "Oh, this ain't looking great." Second half, we stepped up, and I think we do have a bit more passion in that side a little bit with Jamie George. Like he's very vocal about how much it means to him playing for England and how much England players are trying to drive that passion and when they want the fans to see it. And I think with Jamie George as captain, we've got that passion trait that the Welsh seem to always have, and we've sort of got that coming into the side a little bit. I do think that if we don't get the rush defense right, is the sort of opportunity Finn Russell can really expose. And I've said this to a few commentators on X/Twitter, and I've said a few guys that do a rugby analysis on X, Twitter, whatever you want to sort of call it. And I've said that my biggest concern about the rush defense, especially because it's clear we're still figuring out how to actually implement it effectively, is if someone like Finn Russell gets any time on the ball and we read this wrong, he'll be able to get that ball over the top. And when you have someone like Duhan who's just a man mountain on the wing, who 6'4", 108 kilos, and that runs like a sprinter, it will hurt. It's going to hurt, and Scotland can get behind us a number of times. Like Rose, I do think that we will win. My gut instinct is that I think this is the one where we win. I don't think it's going to be convincing, and I feel like it is going to be a game of two halves. And I'm going to err on the side that England probably going to start the better of the two teams and just get enough of a lead where we're just a little bit out of sight for Scotland to chase us in the second half.
Yeah, so just moving on to the final game, and we'll just walk through it 2 minutes. Ireland, Italy, obviously no surprises, 36-0 victors. Italy never really in the game. They had the opportunity to score the first points, missed the kick. To be honest, I don't think it was Ireland's best performance. The attack didn't look as fluent as it always looks. I have to give props to that Italian defense. I thought it was absolutely immaculate, but it doesn't help you just defend and you never have the ball to actually create something. Do we see any form of an upset happening in terms of a game against Ireland, or do we think it's all done and dusted? They're walking away with a grand slam, Rose?
So I sort of stat Ireland in their last 20 games have lost one game. No guesses what game it was. And I look at the Ireland side now, and I think everyone kind of saw that performance coming with Italy. Like, no disrespect to Italy and where they are on their sort of trajectory. The sort of scouts they're looking at are Wales and Scotland. They're the two teams that are like eyeing up as where they can get some wins for the rest of the Six Nations. Because like they took on an Ireland side. Was it their best performance? Was it their most efficient performance? No, but Ireland did have 11 line breaks, which is unheard of at this sort of level. So it just shows that whilst it wasn't their best performance, I think their game against France was a bit more attack-wise, a very, very complete performance. What I'll say about Ireland now, they're just where they are to the rest of the chasing pack. They're head and shoulders. Their 80% is England's right now 90-95%, and we're not even operating there. For us to get anywhere near that, we have to get to that, and that's only about 85 of Ireland's capacity. So I think it's a little bit of different performance. There's a few rotations in that side. However, we're looking at Ireland, and they beat France, they've beaten Italy. Assuming they beat England, they'll get a Grand Slam. Like, for no love or money, like odds on they should get a Grand Slam with the sort of way they operate. So yeah, I think job done, and move on to the next Ireland.
Rose?
Yeah, I agree. I think Ireland will get the Slam. I think there was some doubt from a lot of critics and a lot of people online before the Six Nations started, saying, will Ireland be the same team without Sexton? But I think Crowley's performance over the last two games has really proved those people wrong.
Yeah,
I think he looks so promising. He looks brilliant. And today in the game, he made a couple of line breaks himself, which was very nice to see. But he just has flair. I almost prefer, I know this is very early stages to say this is a big sweeping statement, but right now, I almost prefer his style of play to Sexton's. It's a little bit more exciting, but he still can control the game in that same way. So, Ireland are playing England at Twickenham. I'd love to say that England stand a chance. My heart says yes. My head says absolutely not. So, yeah, I think they will get the Slam. You never know. Scotland could...
I don't even think they're focusing on the Six Nations anymore. They're focusing on the real Ireland. They're focusing on the real big trophy. When they come to South Africa, we'll be waiting. We'll be waiting. Jokes aside, I think how good they are, that sets up a brilliant two tests that they're playing out here in South Africa. I think it's an absolute sin. It's the 11th sin that it's only two tests and there's no decider. The fact that that could end up in a draw is ridiculous just because we have a game against Portugal. Seriously, you could have still had the game against Portugal. We'd anyway not play our strongest team against them. But I think that sets up such a beautiful little test series there in South Africa. If I'm not mistaken, England is playing New Zealand, right?
Yeah, we've got New Zealand. I believe we've got New Zealand and Fiji in the summer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we've got New Zealand.
We've got Fiji, I think.
You don't. We spoke about Scotland that could cause damage if you don't get that rush defense right. Don't even get me started on New Zealand. Scary. Because
on the Scott Robertson, that's the first. That'll be New Zealand's first outing under Scott as well. And
you talk about pacing behind. You've got Will Jordan and Mark Talia.
Yeah, yeah.
Stop it.
Stop. D-Mac. Yeah.
But Bowden came out and said he's going for that 10 jersey again. But anyway, I appreciate both of you guys coming on to the podcast. We love you guys. John, tell the people where they can find you, please.
TikTok, Instagram, John Okafor, so first name, last name, __, and you'll see me on Rugby Pass, and we've got new affiliate pages, so we've got stuff like Scrummy and Gainline Fitness and what's the other one? Outbound Global. So we've got a travel account, we've got a food account, we've got a gym account, all sort of part of the Rugby Pass World Rugby umbrella. So we're really branching out this year, and it's going to be so I'll be on your screens in a lot of different capacities. So yeah.
And Rose,
Mine's a lot more simple than that. I got Instagram and TikTok, and I should have put my last name or my name on the screen, but it's Rose Mendham, Mendham, first and last name. I do rugby stuff on TikTok.
thank you very much, everyone, for joining and liking and subscribing. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. Until next time, thank you.